Anything
I don't
exciting?
know if you're joking or not, you see, because I don't know how hard you work and how much responsibility you have.
I take complete responsibility for everything.
Mm-hmm.
So what's exciting in your life?
Well, you know, the granddaughter, that's now finally solved and
Oh, good.
out. They've just left about 2 minutes ago. From here, the daughter goes to a new school near her mother's, in the same suburb as the mother. Starts on Monday, and is going to live obviously full time with the mother, and
Oh, that's a good outcome. Right.
and then we've offered to, because the mother is obviously a career woman as well. She's got to work to support her family, and so we're going to pick them up from school every day and bring them home, and they can start their homework here. Not take them home, bring them to our house, and they can do their homework here, and then probably within an hour of us getting them here, she'll pick them up.
Okay. Oh, that's good.
And so that works out. And if we may need to get involved, depending on her times and that she arranges with her work, she might even drop them off here in the morning on her way to work, and then we go and drop them off maybe an hour later at school.
It's good that you've managed to sort of salvage that relationship with them.
Yeah, definitely. And you know, and both schools are like 4 kilometers. The furthest is about 4 kilometers away.
Okay.
So it's close, and it's no busy roads. Okay, so it's going against the traffic in the morning and against the traffic in the evening. So yeah,
Well, that sounds like a good outcome.
yeah, no, we're very happy because now we've got a family again, and that makes a big difference. And we've got grandchildren again. We're going to interact with both of them, and they're very excited as well, the outcome. So it's it's just the father is still an arsehole. Okay, he took her off his medical aid without telling anybody. So
I mean, that's just hard to fathom, isn't it? I mean, what?
Yeah, no, it is. It's ridiculous, you know. So, but we've stopped trying to fathom that one out, and very pleased with all the positive outcomes.
Yeah, well, that's good, you know, and hopefully at some point he'll get himself sorted out, but who knows?
Yeah, who knows? You know.
Well, that's up to him, really, isn't it? So.
Yeah, and whatever is going through his mind or his psyche. Yeah. Yeah. Otherwise, all well. We've been concerned about Get Set Up because I told you last time that we haven't had any contact with them. They haven't been contacting us, and I made contact with the other three. Well, Sue's one of them. The other two guides in Australia, and had a meeting, just the four of us, and we kept contact. Every week we keep in contact with each other, but none of them had any contact with Get Set Up, probably for 2 weeks, minus 2 weeks, and despite trying, in other words, initiating some sort of contact. And anyway, today I said to the one person who was free, I said, let's both send a message to all the three people who are supposed to be our seniors or support team, okay? And let's send a message, including the one is the founder, which is Deval, okay? And let's see what happens. And we both did it at the same time. And that it was this afternoon. And within a minute, the founder, Deval, came back and said, don't address these things to me, address them to Stanley. That was it, finished and clear, okay? So, but I had already addressed it to Stanley. I addressed all three of them. You see, the new support person. And then Stanley said to me, he was far more polite and interactive. He said that our support person has went off again with COVID and has been off now for a week or 10 days. And nobody bothers to tell us or anything like this, but he says, no, as far as November is concerned, just duplicate October. And so, and that's what we wanted. We wanted to know what we were going to do. So
is the support person based in India?
Yeah, they all are.
Okay.
Yeah. And of course, as you know, I told you last time that the manager of Australia also resigned. Okay.
So was that the lawyer?
Mark. Yeah, the lawyer. Yeah. Whether he resigned or whether he was asked to leave, I have no idea. You see, we didn't know those things. We don't know those things. But yeah, he's gone, and yeah. So we don't have a manager. We don't have a support person, and all we have is like the manager in India, and he's supposed to be overseeing Australia as well. But I think he's got his hands full with India by themselves. Yeah. But anyway, that's a sort of an update on what's happening, and yeah, I've also decided to join. I'm not sure if I mentioned it on Sunday because it was only this weekend that I decided to again join a multi-level marketing company, and. Did I mention it on Sunday? I can't remember.
I don't think it did. I think we got cut short a bit with
the. Because the pot's arriving. That's right. Yeah. Oh yes, I hurt myself trying to carry the bags of pot insert, like 30 kilograms bag, and I just don't have that strength.
No.
And they didn't bring a labourer or anybody, just a woman driving her car. Anyway. So yeah, I've decided to join. This particular company has its head office in Australia. Okay, it is partnered up with the company that I was working with multi-level marketing in South Africa. That one was called Canamere, and when I came out here, I brought some Canamere products with us because they were really outstanding products, and. But then, with COVID and everything happening, it just never happened that I continued with those particular products. And anyway, they've now got a science lab company, whatever not sure quite how to describe them. Well, I don't know who they are really. Here in Melbourne, their head office is in Melbourne, and the guy in South Africa, the founder of South Africa, the two of them have teamed up, both now have founded a new company, but based on, they're calling the company Nano Nutrients, which is based on nanotechnology, and which it really interests me. That it always has, because you're extracting the actual natural core chemical that is needed out of that particular plant or whatever. And it's definitely going to be the way supplements are made in the future, because supplements up to now generally, just haven't been good enough. It's fine if you want to put calcium in your body, and you have some calcium, but then it doesn't absorb properly, it doesn't disseminate in your body properly, because it doesn't have all the other plant things around it to do that. So, and even if they say they're bioavailable, it doesn't mean that the individual's gut microbiome is actually available to take it in.
Yeah.
So anyway, I've been teaching a lot of that on Get Set Up as well. I've been talking with herbs, because microgreens have this incredible power to heal your microbiome, and so I'll be encouraging people to grow their own microgreens. And anyway, coming back to the company, Sue and I decided we'll join together, and then we'll start laying down sort of a foundation. The company hasn't launched yet. Okay, it's going to launch in January, and so what I think quite cleverly are doing at the moment, they've taken all the previous people from the previous company, and they've started a strategy between now and January of everybody who joins will become a founder member. And they're going to be given virtual shares, okay? And you can buy into it and at different levels and so on. But then by the time the launch comes, before the launch, then that'll stop forever. So there'll only be founder members that have a chance now, and they'll get benefits for the next 10 years, which and the benefits are quite substantial. So yeah, I sort of looking at all this, and I swore I'd never go back into a multi-level marketing company. When I came to Australia, I said that's enough now. I've done it. Okay, I don't like the type of the way things are laid out in multi-level marketing and so on. Okay, and fortunately, this company has addressed some of my own personal issues. Okay, not that I had any influence on them. It's just that they saw through it as well. And, I saw the owner in South Africa for quite a lot, just on the sort of the week before I left South Africa to come here permanently. He came around quite often, and we interacted. Much younger than I am, and I don't know how old he is, but I would guess he's probably in his early 40s or something like that.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's what we're on about. So what I'm currently doing, and is they're asking people, these founders that are making themselves known, and they're approaching to get people to vote for them. Okay, in other words. So they're looking to enhance the founders' sort of stability by, getting all their friends and family just to vote, okay, and to say, yes, I know this person, I support this person as a founder member. So that's what I've just started now, putting together some emails and things like that. So within the next day or so, I'm going to start that process. So, if you get which you will, if you get an email from me saying, please vote for me, please vote for me.
Sure. No problem.
Okay. And I have no doubt, okay, that I don't know for sure, but I have no doubt that, you vote for me, then probably you're going to I know you're going to put your first name in your email and your phone number, and I know that they'll probably email you and say, thanks for voting for Michael. Okay, let us tell you something about the company or something like that. Okay, no doubt about that. So just be aware of that. And then every single email, I'm told, will have an unsubscribe button. So if you vote for me, you get an email, just unsubscribe. Okay, and then that's fine. It doesn't affect the vote for me.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, so I'm getting into that, and thinking, I asked myself, did it have something to do with the fact that I was feeling insecure with GetSetter? Because Sue and I have really been worried about, where we're heading. And then I had the misfortune, I don't know if you call it a misfortune or whether it was the hand of God playing in. One of the American guides, who I thought was an American guide, her name is Marge. I see she arrives on my website, okay, and subscribes to my weekly emails, okay. which at the moment are just repeating from last year's weekly emails, because I hadn't written any new ones. But when they get to the end, I think I've got like 65 emails, and then I'm not sure if you personally have ever been on any of them, but when they reached the end one, then they would just start again, because they would. Anyway, I saw that she had come on, and that was like weird. So I made contact with her, and she said some complimentary things about the Get Set Up classes, my Get Set Up classes, and the next minute she asked if she could buy my book. Okay, and so she's read my book, and but the reason I'm telling you all this is because I then formed sort of like this relationship, and it then went on where she shared with me her mishap with Get Set Up. Okay, and she was a guide, and then all of a sudden, without any notice, without any consultation with her, they just closed all her classes at the beginning of the 1 month. Okay, and then offered her a job at half the price, doing something for them. Okay, now the reason I'm telling you that is because that might have influenced me, maybe, in this whole thinking process, feeling a bit insecure with Get Set Up. If they could do that to somebody that I know, okay, are they doing that to us right now? Are they going to tell us November? Sorry, that's the end.
But you've both got pretty good participation rates, though, haven't you?
Yeah, we have. Okay, we do have, but the launch in Australia, hasn't been like in America and India. Okay, and the manager resigning, that also makes me think, did he resign? Was he asked to leave? I mean, he'd only just started, and then prior to him, there was the actual woman who recruited me originally. I can't remember her name. She also resigned and moved on. And that was a few months ago. So, I was just feeling that I enjoy it. I love what I'm doing. But, if Australia's not making money for them, who am I? I'm just a pawn in the whole thing.
Yeah.
So I've joined this company now, and Nano Nutrients, and I'm going to just quietly build away on it online, the way I know. Okay, and even the way I teach other people to do business online. So you might well see me a little bit more present on the social media, because I know you do too. So yeah, but also I'm looking forward to getting back to taking not the same product, but a product now produced with nanotechnology. And the other advantage has been, sorry to carry on chatting like this, but the development and everything and the science is all based here and in Brisbane, and but the manufacturing is going to be done in South Africa.
Oh, okay.
Right. And now the clear advantage of that is, it's 10 to 1 the exchange rate. Okay, so it's a lot cheaper to produce a product and sell it at retail prices, South African retail prices. Okay? And then take it to the rest of the world. So I think there's another win situation there.
And with the product itself, what is it? Is it a supplement? Is it?
It's nanotechnology is like this one. All their products are liquid. Okay, so there's no tablets and things. So, and it's liquid, in water, and which makes it almost guaranteed to be bioavailable for everybody. Okay? And so even though it might have a whole host of different But it's 100% plant-based. They guarantee that on them. 100% plant-based, no added chemicals, okay, at all. Okay, and so that's what it is. It's actually a liquid that I guess there's probably some that you put on your skin. At the moment, it's just 3 that they're launching with this founders thing. Okay, they've got other products ready. They showed pictures in the background of the other products that are ready, that will happen next year, but only these 3. And so, yeah, that's what they're starting with.
Nice.
So,
well, that should be good. I mean, that. What are we now? We're in the middle of October, so so it's only a couple of months before the formal launch. So
yeah, and they're going to start training in South Africa, because what they're going to do is maybe do I don't know what you would call it, but the official launch is with Australia in January, but they're going to do like a pre-launch in South Africa.
yeah,
And so, and that's going to be in November, and but it'll just be limited to South Africa, okay, and just getting things, I guess, underway from that side, and also maybe, sort of, because there was a company called Canamere there, that there are people that are still Canamere, and so they've got to tell them also, that they emerging now into this new nanotechnologies, and those products now will all be, well, not all of them, but some of them will be produced as nanotechnology and not as tablets. Okay.
yeah.
And so they're going to take advantage of November and December before the official launch. So yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Have you ever been involved with something like multi-level marketing?
Not that I can think of, apart from maybe IIB. Anyway.
No, IIB never was.
No, not really. No, that's right.
Yeah.
No, not really. No, not that I can think of.
Yeah. I've been in many in my lifetime. Yeah.
So is that going to be part of your Rollins, is to try and set up a network? Is that essentially?
Yeah. That's the bottom line with you basically got 2 options. You got people or 2 groups that want to take the product. Okay. Yeah. And then you have the other group of people who want to make it their livelihood.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, like myself, I'm in both groups. I want to take the product, but then also form a business out of it, and then it's almost for me like an insurance policy maybe, or a pension. Remember, I don't have a pension. I don't have any form of savings at all, and thanks to a couple of divorces and things like that, and sequestrations, bankruptcies, all sorts of the fun that goes with life for me. So this could be, I could just quietly on the side build up something that I believe in, and then have that'll produce, as long as people keep using the product and they keep bringing out new products, which clearly that's what multi-level marketing companies do.
Yeah.
And if people trust them and it's genuine, it will evolve, and hopefully then I will have that income. Perhaps when I can't do any more classes for Get Set Up with them.
No, exactly. Yeah. No, it sounds like a good idea.
Yeah. And it's in my nature. I can do it. It's not something that's outside of me. Yeah.
Well, I think it makes it a whole lot easier when it's dealing with subject matter which you're quite passionate about. So
yeah, spot on, absolutely spot on. been 100% plant-based. And my most popular classes by far are anything that has the word plant in it. Okay. Or is a plant, you know. Were the business classes not going well, okay. Attendance not well. But all the herb classes, all the microgreen classes, and the plants, indoor plants and garden plants. And I just get lots of people in class, okay. But the spirituality class, because of the time, I'm going to test it in November again, I think, because they're going to, you know, they're in a bit of a turmoil now. They're going to just allow us, I'm sure, whatever we put down. So I'm going to try and swap out some of my classes to get back to the spirituality that's at least early evening for the Americans.
Yeah, yeah.
And I've got an email from one. Quite a few of them have joined my website. They just search for me, and I guess I don't promote it. And they land up there getting my email. They're going to keep that going because I think that's part and parcel of me. It has been for a number of years, and you know, I've got like 5,000 or 6,000 people on that database, and they reading my emails every week, and so I want to continue writing new stuff now.
Yeah.
That I'm researching anyway, because I'm researching it for Get Set Up.
I think it's a great idea.
So yeah,
sounds like they're quite complementary to everything else that you're doing, doesn't it? You know. So.
Yes, it does, and I think there's certain things that are pulling away from me. Okay, like the business classes and so on.
Yeah.
You know, I think that's pulling away from me. What is just want to see? I jotted down some numbers here. Oh yeah, the other one was the mysteries classes. I'm not getting good attendance for those mystery classes either, and so it's something I've got to like think about, and whether over maybe by the beginning of the new year to be, you know, stopping it, or what I'll do in November is I'll just swap around some times and see. Even the science classes are not great. I was thinking of trying to rename, you know, I had it as Exploring Science, and I had, under the word Exploring Science, I actually had more numbers than I did now, where the new management said I must take away the word explore and put demystify science. But this month I've been thinking, you know, does the word science actually limit people? Because, you know, yeah, so perhaps people have different ideas of what a science class would be. Anyway, but I'm telling you that because there are certain things that are pulling away from me, and there are other things like plants and green things and that are coming at me. Okay. And a lot of my learners have suggested I do a class also on soil preparation, composting, and absolutely, and organic fertilizers and things like that.
And I think the other context, which seems to do, from what I hear you say, is working well, is doing that in a small space. You know,
yes.
So city living and all of those sort of contexts around that. You know, which I think is great.
Yeah. I think so too, and I think that will be my emphasis, because I mean there are 1,001 people out there who, you know, are gardeners and talk about gardening, and you know, and they sell, you know, their commercial products to gardeners and farmers and things like that. But there's not a lot out there talking to people who don't have a garden.
No, that's right. I mean, I must admit, I've seen a few, like with some of the gardening shows, that, like, you know, like the ABC has and stuff like that. It's not unusual for them to sort of do stories on, you know, people like with rooftop gardens and apartment buildings and things like that.
Yeah. You know, so I've been talking about balcony gardening and patio gardening as well.
I think that's great context. Yeah.
And as a result, on Sunday last week, I got some pots for my patio. Okay. You know me, I've got to do what I talk about. Okay?
No, well, and that's the thing. It keeps us authentic, doesn't it? You know.
It does. You know, and I did a class today that really. I gave myself the class 6 weeks ago for that turned out to be today, and medicinal herbs. Okay?
Yeah.
And I realized that I had bitten off far more than I can chew when I started thinking about it, and you know, there are people who are absolute professionals. I mean, herbalists, genuine herbalists, and even, you know, alternative doctors and things like that. And so, anyway, the long and short of it is I eventually bought an ebook from a herbalist who focuses on the herbs and the remedies that have basically been forgotten.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's what I started today. And I said to them, I said, you know, this is like beyond me, guys. And this is what I've done. And it really looks very interesting. And some of them even turned out to be, you know, what people regard as weeds that they see on the side of the road. You know? But it's not. They're really nutritious herbs. And some of them really on top of the list. So I've got this ebook now with clear imaging, easily identified. I've also moved on, and now, before 2 weeks ago, I was just using the Common Garden name. But now I've used the Common Garden, but on my slides, every single one, I put the scientific name. So if people are worried or get confused, you know, I don't want them doing something which they thought I said or thought I meant, and then it doesn't work for them, or they poison themselves. So I'm now putting up the scientific name, and there's, you know, I point that out to them all the time. So I'm also evolving in how I'm doing it and why I'm doing it.
I think that's great. I really do. I think that's fantastic. Yeah. It's something that's clearly needed as well, you know.
I think so, you see. I think so. Why do you think it's clearly needed?
Oh, well, you know, like I've always thought that in terms of that spiritual connection, you know, it is about, you know, getting your hands and feet into the soil, you know, and the nutrition that flows out of it, and just that whole process of, you know, growing, and it's all like a creation process, isn't it? You know,
yeah, for sure.
And just watching that miracle unfold, you know, the seed turning into a plant, you know. So I just think it's a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
And no matter how many times you see it either, like, you know, like I've got some, you know, corn and a few other things growing there at the moment, and I look at the corn, especially when it sort of starts out young, you know, and it's growing a couple of inches a day, you know, and you just sort of, this is incredible. It's just jumping out of the ground, you know.
Right. Marvelous. It's marvelous.
It is marvelous.
Yeah. It's mystical, you know.
Well, it is. It's like, you know, I mean, you know, you can't understand what's at play, but it's just in awe just watching it do what it does, you know.
Yeah. The other aspect is I talk in my classes. I don't think people even realize it. Okay, you know, like what you've mentioned now. You know, I will say things like, you know, your connection. I might even say, you know, your sort of energy connection or your spiritual connection, and starting in the soil. So the soil. I do a class called macro and micronutrients. So this in the soil. That's now the part of creation. That's the start of creation. Okay. Okay. And you're forming these macro and micronutrients in the soil, like sodium and zinc and all those sort of things that are there. And then they, you know, get put into the plant, and the plant now digests them and now you get the macro and micronutrients in the plants that you're going to eat, or the vegetables, or the herbs, or the microgreens, and then it's preparing them for you. Now you eat them, okay?
Yeah, that's right.
And now I would say things like you eat them with love, okay? Because now there's more subtle things that are being fed after the physical body, okay, through that process. So I would talk things like that, okay? And those that have got their videos on, which are so few these days, you know, you can see I'm getting through to them. You can see their head sort of unconsciously nodding, you know. Yeah. So yeah, it's a spiritual journey. This everything to do with plants. So I'm just.
Well, that's right, and I think a lot of the you know, like the cooking shows and that were always about, you know, like the food preparation and stuff like that. Well, I mean, you've just taken it a whole quantum leap before that, you know, and growing your own food, you know. So
yeah, and tell them why from the physical health point of view. And I talk about all sorts of different diseases as I go through the different classes. And, you know, then I'd suddenly hit a nerve with somebody, you know, can you really use it for arthritis? You know? I said, it's the best plant, okay? But also now my knowledge is increasing. I say you could add this one to it that perhaps wasn't in the class, because I wasn't talking about diseases, I was talking about plants, you see. And, but I always mention the things that they want to hear and are important. It's, you know, it's fine to say it's got vitamin C in it, okay, but you know, what does vitamin C do for me? You know, I want to know. So,
well, exactly, and I think the other thing too, as you say, it's not a you know, a medical oriented thing, but you know, it just sort of goes back to, well, what constitutes healthy food, you know.
That's
you know,
right.
how it's grown, how it's cared for, how it's prepared, you know, all of those things. So
yeah.
And you don't have to convince anyone of that, because it is what it is, isn't it? You know. So.
Yes, it is correct. Okay, and you know, if people aren't ready for it, they won't hear it. You know. Yeah.
But I don't think there's anything controversial about it either. It's just
no, there's not. I agree. Well, I don't think so, but I, you know, there are different people out there. Eh? Yeah.
I think a part of that though is just lack of awareness as to where our food comes from and how it's grown now. And
yeah.
you know, when you look at those, you know, factory farms, it's just appalling to think that that's somehow healthy. You know, it's just
yeah, it is. It is, and I do bring the awareness there as well. You know, like today it was more about because I'm talking about medicinal herbs today. You know, I was saying, you know, we've always had for thousands and thousands of years only one medicine, okay, and that came from plants, okay. Then a few years ago, the pharmaceuticals came, okay, and they couldn't patent natural things that occur naturally. They couldn't patent the medicine they'd made out of 100% plants. So they had to modify it so that it was unique to them. Okay? And then they could now patent it and make millions from it and give people side effects. Okay? And that's how. Now, I would say that in passing. I wouldn't sort of wait for comment or anything. I'd just pass and then get back onto the positive side of things again. You know. But yeah, part of the awareness. It's so you can see how much it is me, the things I've been sharing with you. Yeah, so it's great.
It is great. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah. So now with this thought of maybe coupling it with my website a little bit and putting the information, because for 2 years now I've just regurgitated the same old stuff on my website. I mean, I had a person today, in fact I got the email today from Anaka or something. She's an Indian lady that's at the moment suffering from shoulder freeze, and she was saying she can't believe the content on my website. She said I've been through it, you know, and there's just so much informative content there. So then she said, well done. Now, she's probably a girl, I don't know, I've seen she shows her video and so on when she comes on there. She actually came into my business class originally, because she wants to, bake cakes and things as a business. And she looks probably, I don't know, in her 40s or something like that.
Yeah.
And so she comes back with this having gone through my website and read a lot of my articles. It's marvelous. I mean, so I want to bring that website back alive, bring it back again. And it's interesting that before I left, a friend of mine turned the image of the website into fundamentally with colors of green. Okay.
Yeah.
And before that, I had other colors, and like my favorite colors going back years ago, but I never had green. And I said to him, I'm not going to tell you when you now redesign my website. You use the color that comes intuitively to you. Anyway, he said green. And no, he didn't ask me. He said, I finished it and it's green. Okay. And I thought, oh my God, what green? Who's ever seen a green website?
Yeah.
But I said to myself, Michael, you told him to go with it. Okay. And he did. And now look what turns out, all about plants and stuff like that.
Fantastic.
Yeah, really weird.
Well, the other good thing too is even like, even if the Get Set Up partnership continues, which I hope it does. I mean, that just becomes another vehicle for you, really, doesn't it?
Yes, yes, it is. Correct. Yeah. And it all fits together, it all fits together. So there's nothing sort of out on the tangent in this direction.
No, not at all. I mean, and Get Set Up have said to you that they wanted to do marketing, your own marketing. Well, you're doing that,
Yes.
And if you get the class attendance, then that's working as well. So it all's ticking a lot of boxes, isn't it? So
yes, true. Yeah, absolutely right. But if I want to get the South African market, where most of my database is, or probably more than 2/3 is, then I've got to have much later classes, because there's a 6-hour difference. So I'm not thinking of that at the moment.
Do they have a presence in South Africa?
No. They only have North America, India, and Australia. That's it. And they were planning this year. When I first joined in December last year, they said they're going to open Britain. Okay, but they never have. And Britain and South Africa are almost the same time zone. Okay, so that if they open Britain, then
the good, if they were prepared to shift their thinking and just forget about the borders in one sense, and just let the community that you're cultivating grow from wherever it grows from, then the time that you conduct the classes should just be a natural consequence of that, rather than trying to use the time to grow the market. I think they potentially might have it back to front. So
yeah, but remember that the way they get their income is to get companies in a country to sponsor that country's elderly.
Okay. Yeah, I hear that, but I think the other thing though isn't it, is that as with most sponsorships, is they actually want to see the numbers before rather than promise of what they might be too. So
that's
if you grow the numbers, then there they are. So,
yeah. That's true. But also remember, with the different time zones, generally there's a 12-hour difference between the American market and our market.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
right.
if we do a 7 a.m. in the morning market, then it's 7 p.m. there. Okay.
Yeah.
If I do a 12 o'clock class here, which I do, it's midnight for them.
Yeah.
Okay. Generally speaking. So you've got this vast. So if we had an in-between time zone, with guides, because that might be a way to get more attendance in the class from other countries, and
exactly, yeah,
and particularly English-speaking countries,
Well, there's that, and I think, but the other thing though is I'm still working it through my own head in one respect, but like the development of a community of interest, is beyond borders, isn't it? Really, I mean, if someone's interested in it, and it's within, an acceptable sort of margin of convenience to access, then they will, and that's the challenge, to illustrate, like with the LATRA, is that, for them, most of their conversations happen from where I am at like 3 a.m. in the morning, so it's, it just doesn't happen,
But they need people, like you on the ground in Australia. Okay.
They've got a couple of people now, I noticed. Through one of the WhatsApp things, there's a few others starting to emerge in Melbourne in particular. They've got a few people participating in the proofreading of the books and stuff like that. But it's still pretty thin on the ground, though. You're talking about, participation of, that you can probably count on one or two hands. So
yeah. Although, a company like ALLATRA, I think certainly can grow organically and online. I think a little bit more easily than something like GetSetUp. I mean, nobody's stopping anybody from anywhere in the world enrolling in GetSetUp.
No,
they're not limited in any way.
No, I think the thing that ALLATRA probably does, which makes it a bit easier to span the time zones, is like the videos stay there.
Yeah,
like they don't disappear.
Yeah, that's true. But then that's GetSetUp's business. Okay, it's classes. They don't make any money out of videos unless they change their strategy. But they've even stopped streaming live on YouTube and Facebook now, and they've created a similar within the website of GetSetUp. So there are classes now streamed live all the time, but people have to log into that streaming, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like they're still working through it a bit, doesn't it? But anyway, that's
without a doubt. Yeah, without a doubt. And
that's for them, I guess.
I get the feeling that somewhere along the line they're also hurting, and but I have no idea. They just don't communicate and they don't share, and one doesn't really know what is happening.
For a business whose core business is communication, they don't seem to practice
communication. Well, no, they don't. We say that all the time. It's just like, absolutely, they don't.
No, well, I think you've done a very wise thing.
Good.
Yeah, no, I think you'll do well, and they're all complementary to each other, and don't fight each other. So I think it's a great idea. And I think the other thing too is, like, you've diversified to the extent that the stuff that you talk about and teach on GetSetUp. You still have your own website, you still have your own context. They've asked you to market, so it's not as if it's like, oh, you shouldn't be talking about this outside of GetSetUp.
Sure.
So it's all, as I said, they all line up. So
yeah, they do. And with this nano nutrients as well, 100% plant-based.
Okay? Yeah.
So and it's brand new, latest technology. So using science, that interests me as well. I can write. Perhaps I haven't even tried to research nanotechnology. It's just what I've casually read. So perhaps you and I could have a minor discussion on. I don't know how knowledgeable you are on nanotechnologies, but it's really something that scientifically is moving forward very quickly. I could write up and research on that and do classes on that as well in GetSetUp, as well as articles and as well as emails.
And I suspect that science will evolve pretty quickly in terms of discoveries and that. Because it's sort of funny, because this morning I was listening, to that ebook that I've been following for quite a while now, And he was talking about, things like telepathy and the challenges with telepathy and that. He says, but it's like most things, it's right under your nose. He says, like telepathy is, even though it's a word that people have a view about, but it's really the process of what happens. For example, when your mind communicates with your hand, yes, there's the nerves and all that sort of stuff, but at the end of the day, the cells are individual. So how does one cell communicate to another cell? Well, it does it in effect with telepathy. So that's the process. So, and then the other overlay with telepathy in a broader scale is the issue of the relativity of time. So like at a macro scale, I can look up at the sky and see a galaxy or whatever, but the light which I see that galaxy could be like what I'm seeing now may have in fact occurred at the galaxy 2000 years BC. But does that mean it's not happening now? Well, of course it's happening now because I'm experiencing it now. So this whole idea.
Interesting, that one, yeah. That's an
so
interesting
the whole
concept.
idea of, and when you sort of think about it, whether it's on the macro scale or the micro scale, like even the conversation that we have, it's all happening in the past. So because there's always going to be a time lag between what you say and when it's heard. So it seems to point that a lot of the communication is also aided by the likes of a telepathy sort of thing. The difficulty of trying to do telepathy in a conscious sense is trying to work out what those time differences are, so that if you want to have a communication and you want it to land at a certain place and time, as to how, and I don't think we know how to do that, or maybe we do, I don't know, but how to line that up so that like to use a phone, like a mobile phone analogy, it's lining up the dialing of the number and it ringing at some other device somewhere, and that connecting, so it's that sort of technology as to how do we do that. And I think that's something perhaps that we're still learning about, so.
Okay. Interesting. Interesting. Yeah. You say you following something, or are you reading something?
Oh no, it's just still that book that I'm reading. It's quite a lengthy book, but it's something like, I'm just trying to remember now, several hundred hours anyway.
Yeah, it just brings to mind still this afternoon, or when I finished lessons this morning, I was reading. I get an email from what's it called? Engineering, I think it's called, or scientific engineering. And I was reading a short article there about scientists have now found a black hole going back the equivalent of thousands of galaxies, going through. And this black hole, they've, with whatever telescopes they've got, has been spilling out of the black hole substances. And they talk about that must have happened somewhere around the beginning of creation. About 100 million years ago. Okay, that was happening. That's what they're seeing now. Okay, and I read this today, and I thought, it's so fascinating, because I was thinking, can I bring it into a class or in that sort of information? And I think it's just beyond most people, I think. But and then you go and bring it up. It's just so interesting.
Because the other bit that I sort of find interesting is like the author of the book that I'm reading, even though he's no longer alive, but when he was alive, his training was as an architect. So he talks a lot about the geometry, not in an overt sense, but it's something that I've picked up on when you go through his different chapters. Because he talks about this horizontal hierarchy and the vertical hierarchy. And he often says, that if you look at things horizontally, it's all just another form of where you're at. Whereas if you look at things in a vertical hierarchy, it takes you beyond where you are.
Right.
So, and he said, and it's not that common to consider yourself in a vertical sense. So, and that's a big part of what he talks about in a practical sense. So he sort of says, for me to observe the moon, for example, the only thing that can observe the moon is another moon. And the only thing that can observe another galaxy is another galaxy. He says, so you become what you're observing. And it takes a bit to get your head around that, but when you think about it, the observer can only exist when there's something to observe. So if there's nothing to observe, then you cease to exist. So then the logic is that if you're observing a galaxy or a moon or another person or whatever, in effect, you become whatever you're observing so that it can exist.
Okay. So that's a whole new definition on seeing and comprehending.
And it also ties together this sort of unity, this one universe thing as well. Is that if I see you, and it all sort of starts with that initial proposition is that I have no head. So for me to have a head, I have to use yours because I can't ever see one for myself.
Yeah.
So for me to have a head, I can only do that by looking at yours. And it still comes back to this whole notion of, for an observer to exist, there has to be something to observe. And perhaps, and I haven't I'm still working my way through it, perhaps the only exception to that is God, because God can exist without anything else.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that does require some thinking. Okay. Yeah. Maybe it requires not to think.
But it's definitely worth contemplating, in my view, because it'll take you on that vertical tangent.
Yeah.
Because by its very nature, it takes you out of yourself.
Okay. Yeah.
And so just think about that idea, like for me
to... No, I will, definitely.
For me to observe those plants in the garden, I actually have to become the garden. So that raises a whole range of issues then.
It's interesting just in its simplicity, okay? In the simple concept. But it'll be interesting to think about it and to contemplate it. It will be, hey?
So when you think about it from a nanotechnology perspective, you're thinking about it within a certain context, within a vertical hierarchy, because nano takes you down to the micro. So I suppose part of the part of the contemplative challenge is that as I observe my garden, what does that mean from a nano context? What does it also mean from a macro context? And that's a completely different way of thinking than thinking about it horizontally.
Yes, it is. Okay. Is it? Well, whether it's horizontal or perpendicular, that's another concept that you'll have to teach me. But certainly, I'm thinking as you're talking, I'm thinking that when I go to my garden and I sort of...
You've just frozen up there for a minute.
Oh, sorry about that.
No, you're back now. You're back now.
Okay.
No, you're back now. Yeah.
Yeah, I was saying, just ignoring horizontal and perpendicular terms, I was thinking while you were talking, it was just when I go into the garden and I just stand there looking at the garden, and I do feel like I am the garden. Okay, and I talk in my mind to individual plants and to the garden as a whole sometimes, and so I'm trying to latch onto something that will relate to what you've been saying.
But I think the other thing, context around that though, is when you think about being healthy, even if your starting point is just but then take yourself on the journey of, okay, in the context of this garden, what does healthy mean then? And then when I look at something else, what does healthy mean then? And even laddering out, so what does healthy mean when I become the planet, or the solar system, or the Milky Way, or wherever you want to go, or conversely down the other rabbit hole, down into those nano areas, So what does a healthy cell look like, and why is it healthy? And I suspect that you'll see some themes, or you'll see some connections run vertically through those things, which will just start cropping up, and those vertical threads will be the definition of healthy.
Yes, I like that. Yeah.
Which you talk about already, because you talk about, healthy plant starts with healthy soil.
Yeah.
Let's talk about what healthy soil is, and let's talk about, and one thing to think about, perhaps, as you do that, is if okay, let's have a conversation about healthy, about soil, and you're having that conversation where you are the soil, and if you being the soil is within your experience, then who is better placed to have that conversation about the soil? No one. So so that's what's been stretching my mind along the way.
Yeah.
Well, stretching my mind, that's not even an accurate term, but I don't know what it is, but anyway. Increasing my awareness.
Okay, whatever. Okay. Yeah.
Well, on that note, I might leave you ponder that then.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's probably a good place to stop. We evolved the conversation from my life to life.
Well, how are they separate?
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, Don, that's great, man. See you on Sunday.
Yep, absolutely. Look forward to it.
Yeah, me too, man.
Okay,
Cheers.
take care.
Okay, bye.